It's time for me to bring on our next speaker, sort of. You know, through my whole life, my dad always told me that I had the face for radio. Yeah, he meant it just like that. And maybe because he told me that, I've developed the voice for radio, because that's what I hear from so many people nowadays. Well, this guy doesn't have the face for radio. Look at that smile. This guy doesn't, well, he does have the voice for radio as well, yet this guy is taking radio to the next level. Yet I'm not going to bring him on right now. I'm actually going to flip the screen over to our very own Bob. So Bob, here comes the screen for you, because I know you're taking care of this here, and we're going to actually take Ryan through an interview process. Now, for people who don't know Ryan, you might recognize this smile from when it was in Realtor Magazine's 30 Under 30 in 2011. You might not know anything else about Ryan because he's so busy actually making deals happen, doing over 300 last year.
That was actually, I messed up on that. That was 300 coming up for you this year. Is that right, Ryan? That's the goal?
That's right. That's right.
All right, so we're going to shatter through the 300 number, which is why he doesn't have time to just be the face that you're all seeing except for this picture. Now, Ryan, I'm going to make it really difficult on you. And the reason I'm going to make this really difficult on you is I'm turning it over right now to Bob and to Ben. And they had a whole list of questions for you. Now, as everybody is listening, if you have any more questions, type them in, and we'll see at the end, maybe I'll be able to jump in and add in some of your personal questions. So, Bob, Ben, Ryan, good luck.
Thank you.
I lost my screen there. You guys still seeing my screen?
Yes, we are.
All right. Are you going to see it in full mode now? Yes, you are. Okay. That's not his presentation. Oops. Oh, Chris is going to.
Hey, Ryan, while Bob's getting this figured out, give us a brief bio. How long you've been in the business? What'd you do before?
Yeah, been in the business for 7 years. Got right into real estate after graduating from Purdue University in 2005. Started creating a team about 4 years ago. So that's kind of where I'm at today.
Okay. And where's most of your business come from?
Traditional real estate sales here in Champaign, Illinois, about an hour and 45 minutes south of Chicago.
You know, one of the things that I always admire about a lot of agents is how big's your market? How many people?
About 180,000 people.
Okay, so relatively small.
Yes.
Hey, Bob.
That's not me, man.
I'm muting a couple people.
All right, do it. Hey, Ryan, so when you were up here in the Great Pacific Northwest, what was that, 3 or 4 weeks ago, you were coming to kind of check out how Ben runs his team, and I got a chance to meet you for the first time. We sat down, and we had lunch, and I asked you, where does most of your business come from? And I was expecting to get something like, you know, internet leads or our website's generating a ton of traffic. And the answer you gave me shocked me in a lot of the ways, and you were very quick to respond, and it was almost as if there was no question. I mean, you just said radio, and I was not as quick to respond back to you because I was a little bit shocked, to be honest. So we brought you on here. We're going to talk a little bit about radio. I know Ben wants to cover some of the other things that you may be doing to kind of supplement the radio stuff you're doing. You mentioned your team, and you started to build a team, and I think when a lot of people think of a team, they think of these big kind of organizations, and you guys have done, what, 219 closed deals. Your team isn't that large at this point. Are you guys able to keep up with everything you got going on with that team, or are you just like out there looking for your next best person to bring on?
Yeah, we're always looking to hire talent, but so far we're being pretty successful. We're really pushing the efficiency, have great team members on board that work very hard and are very good at converting.
So let's talk about your radio for a second. So what made you first decide to do radio? Were you like sitting at your desk one day and you got a phone call from some slick advertising guy at the local radio station, or was it something you set out to do?
Yeah, I tell you, it's interesting because I think, as most real estate agents can probably relate to, it's always seemed much easier to generate buyer leads. So what I was looking at is, how can I generate seller leads without necessarily having to consistently prospect for those leads, because I've been heavily prospecting based. And so I thought to myself, you know, what are the key ways right now that I get seller leads? And the number one source for a quality seller lead was a referral. I mean, that was the #1 source for my seller leads at that time. So what I thought is, how can I appear to get a referral from someone, but more in a mass media range? So radio was my #1 thought on that.
So when you set out, you said, okay, I've got this plan. I'm going to get it. You said I'm going to get a referral on a mass media range. So you set out to start radio. What did you do? You just went and knocked on the door at your local radio station? You called somebody up there? Like, what was the process for beginning to kind of explore doing radio?
Yeah, well, I've seen a lot of agents in my own market doing radio, and what I noticed they were doing is more of the quantity versus quality, and what I mean by that is they had commercials going on all the time, all hours of the day. So what I kind of thought about and decided to do was let's reverse that, and even with radio, which is a little less known to be more of a quality type marketing venue, I wanted to really get that quality. And so how do you do that? Well, you figure out first off, when is the audience the biggest? When are more people listening to that station? There's many ways to do that. There's Arbitron ratings is the #1 source for getting those numbers to see how many people are listening to this show. What I found very quickly was morning talent show host. You know, they're almost friends to people. Everybody's driving to work about the same time, and so I thought to myself, well, if everyone's driving to work, you know, in my market it's about a 20-minute commute at most. What's that best drive time, if you will, and who are the #1 morning show hosts in my market? And so once I was able to accumulate all those numbers, information, I then met with the radio stations and kind of put together a plan that has really proven to work very well.
So talk a little bit about that plan. Can you share with me? You don't have to like quote your radio ad word for word, but just talk a little bit about what is it that you said, you know, I saw these other agents out there, they were looking for quality versus quantity. And so you have quality radio spots. You're not running them quite as often maybe, but talk a little bit about the spot itself.
Yeah. So what I have is, like I said, they're in the morning show, during the morning show. So my commercials run every single morning at 7:40 a.m., which is considered to be in radio prime time driving time. So we're grasping the most amount of listeners that we can at that point in time. So I come on at 7:40, and the way I've structured my commercial is a bit different. They're not pre-recorded commercials. They are live reads, which I think is very important in getting your point across and getting that referral type feeling from the listener. So the way my commercial have about 4 bullet points that my hosts are to say every single time that they give my ad. Those 4 points, there's a call to action. As Ben said earlier, that sellers are offer driven. I couldn't agree with that more. So I've got that call to action. Your home sold guaranteed, or I'll buy it. I then have a second hassle-free listing approach. So that's the second bullet point that my radio show talent has to say every time is, if you're unhappy with Ryan's service, you can fire him at any time, or if you find your own buyer, you can fire Ryan at any time. It's another offer-driven, giving them the freedom to feel like, hey, we're not tied to this guy. The third one is an example of a recent sale. Our current sales statistics, very important. We're updating that almost on a weekly basis. So we sell a house in 24 hours for full asking price. You can bet the next day our live host is saying, you know, yesterday in Champaign, Illinois, Ryan listed a house, and in 24 hours it sold for full asking price. And then, of course, that fourth is that contact information, which is vitally important to capture that lead. So go ahead.
Go ahead. No, you go ahead.
Okay, besides those 4 points, this is where it really comes to the referral type, because these folks that are driving to work every morning, they're used to listening to that morning show host, and so we want that to be as real as possible. So by making it a live read, you get the personality of that morning show host in every single ad, and it is a sincere type commercial. Something I've found to make that more sincere is meeting with those radio morning show hosts. I take them out to lunch or dinner on a quarterly basis, just appreciating them for what they do. And what I found by that is a typical live read is going to be 30 seconds or 60 seconds. Mine tend to run about 1:30 because they just keep going and keep going because they like me and they believe in that referral that they're giving me.
So did you say, have you worked with like one of these guys or actually sold a house for them, or?
Yeah, it's pretty interesting, but one of the morning show hosts that we work with, I'm currently on 2 stations. So I'm on 10 times a week. That's all I'm on. And one of those morning show hosts actually sold his home. We had the privilege of working with him, and we did sell his home in 26 hours, and we did sell it for full asking price. So it was pretty great, and my team stepped up and brought the buyer, and we got it done quickly.
And he's just, so now, I mean, that guy's a huge fan of yours, and like you said, it is that personal referral. He's really, like, he's speaking from his heart. He's not just reading a script or firing off a couple bullet points.
Exactly right. It's pretty humorous because I get calls all the time from the station, and they actually have sellers calling to say, now we heard Andy talk about Ryan selling his house for full asking price. Can we talk to Andy? Is that real or is that a paid advertisement? Fortunately, in our case, it's real.
So you talked about your kind of calls to action, and one of them is this guaranteed or I'll buy it. And when we sat down and I met you for the first time, I think I asked you, like, really guaranteed or I'll buy it? Like, how many houses have you bought? Talk a little bit about that approach.
Yeah, it's in real estate. I think most real estate agents that are trying to generate leads, and especially seller leads, because it's a little bit of a tougher game to get. They lack that call to action, or that offer-driven statement that the seller wants to hear. So often I see a lot of agents advertising, and they've got probably pretty high advertising budgets, but it's all about branding, and at some point you need a call to action. So I implemented, the Guarantee Sale program, and basically in one of my commercials, something that the radio morning show host would say is, all you need to do is sit down with Ryan, come to an agreed-upon price at an agreed-upon deadline, and if your home hasn't sold for that price by that deadline, Ryan will buy it. So I call it an immediate buyout program is what it really is. And like you had said, Bob, I told you, we're not really out here buying homes. Because a seller's going to say at the end of that listing appointment, they're going to say, oh yeah, what about that guaranteed sale that you offer? And my rebuttal against that is the Guarantee Sale program. It's a great program and can work well for many people. Are you familiar with wholesale versus retail? And they'll say yes. And I'll say, that's how my program works. I would purchase your home at wholesale so that I could turn around and sell it for retail, but it takes the worry out of the sell for you. Would you rather sell your home for retail and make that net profit that I would be making if I bought it for wholesale? And they always say yes.
So you're essentially using it as a call to action. Nobody ever takes that option. I mean, it really all comes down to pricing, right?
That's exactly right.
Okay, so you're running these radio ads. You're out there. How many times? You said 10 times a week. People are hearing this radio guy just give shining reviews of how great you are. What other stuff are you doing to kind of supplement that? I mean,
yeah.
Is this the only way you're getting these seller leads is through radio? Or what other kinds of things do you have out there that are kind of more traditional?
Yeah, I think it's very important to have different medians out there that all tie together, and I think it's important to tie everything together because then it's not only getting your name out there, but it's also that brand that makes you that top-of-the-mind awareness. So I think that is critical. So yes, I do other marketing avenues. I do some billboard marketing, and that also ties into the as heard on Mix 94.5 and Wixie 100.3, your home sold guaranteed or I'll buy it. As Ben showed earlier, I do some target postcard mailings as well. And in some of those postcards that I have, it also ties right back to radio because the neat thing about radio is they've got very strict demographics, basically, that they can pretty much tell you who's listening to what station. For instance, I've got a station at 94.5, and that demographic is a soccer mom. They're in a particular area of town, so I know that I can target postcards based on that radio station to certain areas of my community, and it ties it all together with my radio ad. So there's a better likelihood that they're hearing me on radio and then getting me on postcard. So that's a very phenomenal thing for us as far as conversion rate as well. And then we do call capture, marketing brochures, pay-per-click, all the internet marketing that most folks are doing as well.
So I asked you yesterday, we were chatting. I said, hey, what kind of leads are you generating out of this thing from a seller perspective? Because like you said, you started out, it was easier to generate buyer leads, and you were kind of trying to figure out, how do I get these seller leads? So you sent me over some of your numbers from the last couple of months, and you made a comment that I found pretty humorous, I guess. You said, yeah, I said, you got 76 seller leads in June. Like, how many of those turned into an appointment for you?
About 50%.
50%. And you actually said to me, I think, that's not very high, or some people might not think that's high. And I chuckled because we have dealt with buyer leads, and most people out there have dealt with buyer leads. And when you get buyer leads, my goodness, if you could turn 25% of your buyer leads into an appointment, you'd be doing ridiculously well. So 50% I think is pretty good. And then so you get out there, let's say in June, if you were hitting around 50%, you had what, 37, 38 appointments that you guys went out on. That's between you and one other guy, is that right? You have like a listing partner?
That's correct. So we've got two of us working.
You guys are heading out there. How many of those people are actually becoming a listing with you?
That's the neat thing about radio and it being a type of referral. We're listing a very high number. I can tell you in the month of June, I believe we put 28 active that month, and that's radio driven.
Okay, so that's so of the 38 appointments you went out on, 28 of those turned into a listing. Are those, when you're sitting down with those people, there's some conversation in there about the fact they're asking you, like, did you really sell that guy's house? He talks so highly of you.
That you're exactly right, and now that I've sold Andy's house, if it's coming from that station, I can tell them, yeah, I did. This is kind of how it went down, just like you've heard him say many times. But other than that, they ask me, we heard so much about you from Kevin Lambert this morning, and I'll say, yeah, Kevin's a great guy. I had him out to dinner last week. He's a really good guy, and I appreciate what he does for me. So I play it off as a personal testimonial, basically.
Okay, so you've got. Has this taken your business over the edge? Before you started doing radio, what kind of seller leads were you generating?
I was 100% nearly prospecting based. Like any other business, probably get that 3 to 5 range of referrals on a monthly basis. But other than that, I was grinding it out every morning. Radio has changed my business drastically. It's given me a little bit more freedom to leverage. I'm in the process of hiring 2 more listing partners just because of the amount of leads that we are generating. So it's definitely changed our business.
Unbelievable. Ben, are you still with us, my friend?
Oh, yeah, I'm right here, just listening.
What do you got?
Well, I like Ryan's business, and Ryan and I have been communicating back for a couple of years. Ryan, what do you think's next for you? What are you going to do to get your business to an acceptable level?
Yeah, it's funny you say that because we're in a market of, like I said, 180,000 people, which to most people, there's people coming from everywhere, but I'd say most people would say that's a pretty small market that you have there to really grow. I'm holding about 5% market share right now. I've seen other agents that are in that 20 to 25% market share. So when Ben asked, what do you do? I think there's, for me in my business, I'm definitely marketing based and prospecting enhanced. And so I look at radio and I say, at some point there's going to be a saturation point on radio. Whether I go to and add a couple more stations, at some point there is that saturation point. So you're always looking at what's that big next growth. And I think there's a few things there that are available, not only with marketing general, but prospecting as well. We have to continue to prospect and have someone in place that knows how to do that. But then ultimately with a market like mine, I have to expand other markets. At some point in my future, I see myself expanding my team into markets that are outside of our multiple listing service.
Ryan, another thing I really like about your business is, tell us about your head buyer's agent and how much business he's doing, and what do you think some of his secrets are, and what do you do before real estate?
Yeah, so my head buyer agent is actually my younger brother. Before real estate, he mowed lawns for a living, and he had done that for about 3 years, and he didn't enjoy it, and I can probably see why. As was said earlier about the DISC profile, I'm a big believer in that as well. So ran the DISC test on my brother, and he came out to be an SC, which is not exactly what I was looking for a position. But being my brother, I stepped out on a limb. I brought him aboard and began teaching him scripts and how to convert, and the importance of being able to talk on the telephone, because I think that's really where you get your foot in the door with these potential buyers. My brother's been in business now 2 full years. This year he'll close about 70 transactions. He does not have a showing assistant. He's doing it all himself. And the key to his success is his ability that he continues to learn and grow. And every day he's constantly working on scripts and how to better convert his buyer leads.
Do you have a meeting with your team? How often?
Yes, we do. We have a weekly team meeting where I'm a part of that, and then we have a daily huddle where we just kind of, where you guys at, work on a few scripts, get our team pumped up and get them motivated, and hold them accountable. Accountability is so critical with, I have accountability partners too. I think it's critical for everyone to have that accountability partner, and that's something we provide. And the reason we do that is because we're here to push our team members to be able to do as much as they want to do, reach and exceed their goals, not only personally but financially.